Hello, my name is Stuart. Today we'll be talking about chronology again. Did you know there is a video to watch before this one? The link is in the description and it is best to watch that one first. Chronology is really important in history and we show it on timelines. Once again, we have 3 questions to think about. What does our timeline show? What should we remember from them? And how can we make links between them? Last time we looked at reading timelines in Key Stage 2. Here were our top tips. The first question is, what is the timeline scale? That's important because the scale guides us to how much of history we have in front of us. Also, without the scale, it's much harder to interpret the information on the timeline. Where is this period in relation to the others we have learned about? This reminds us that history learning isn't lots of pieces that are unrelated. It fits together to form the narratives that we learn. What's the duration of this period? We use a mathematical scale to work out roughly how long the period lasted. This becomes more useful when we look for links and start comparing the different periods of time. Hopefully you can remember this from last time. It's the timeline that we used. Take a look at the scale. It's broken into BC and AD. That's before Christians think Jesus was born. And AD is in the year of our Lord, so that's the number of years after Christians believe he was born. The longest period you can see on here by far is the Stone Ages, Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, followed by the Bronze Age and Iron Age. In school, you might spend the same amount of time learning about all of those periods called prehistory and the Romans, but the duration is massively different. One thing to remember about these timelines, though, is the periods look like they neatly fit together. They sit right next to each other. Now that's done to make the timeline easier to read. But in fact, they often overlap, and even when a period ends through a military conquest or a certain development, the people don't suddenly change. They don't suddenly become Roman or Saxon overnight. It's a progressive change over time. So actually you could think about them overlapping lots, because they do. Now, let's start linking these periods of history together. Is all history British? No, not even close. The history you learn at school does contain a lot from Britain, but while that was happening, so much was going on around the world, and we study just a little bit of that. Do we learn everything? Not even close. We have nowhere near enough time to do that. It would take many lifetimes to get even close. Bear that in mind as we start to think about linking our timelines together. Back to this. You'll recognise it because we just spoke about it. We're going to add some extra information. That is the narrative of British history that we learn in our primary schools. At high schools, you learn what comes next. But don't forget that world history. Let's begin with the Romans. In AD 43, Britain became part of the Roman Empire after it was conquered. The empire was enormous. It had territory in Europe, North Africa, and Asia. So on our timeline, the Roman period is in both British and world history. You can see that there. Also, the Roman Empire had direct contact with Egypt. Oh, that doesn't work. Egypt's covering up part of the Roman Empire. We'll need to lay out the timelines differently. There we go. You can see this overlap. We need to bring in another period of history, the ancient Greeks. See the overlap? These timelines are concurrent. It means the periods of history were happening at the same time. But more than that, the Egyptians, Greeks and Romans all interacted with each other. They met, traded and fought. Eventually, Greece and Egypt became part of the Roman Empire, like Britain. There's a really important question to think about. Do concurrent periods always interact? No, Not always. It's really important we ask this question so that we can think carefully about the past and not accidentally misunderstand. To do that, one more thing to do. Use a map to link the location chronologically and geographically. This is what can help us tell the difference between concurrent periods and those that actually met each other. Let's finish with a quick quiz. So what have we learned? Question number 1. Which period of history is the longest on the timeline? Question number 2. Name one period of history that is concurrent with the Roman Empire. You can rewind and have another look at the timeline if you like. Question number 3. What is the difference between a concurrent timeline and one that interacts? Time for some answers. Which period of history is the longest on the timeline? It is the Paleolithic. But if you said the Stone Ages, you're still kind of right. To be specific, it is the Paleolithic by far. Name one period of history that is concurrent with the Roman Empire. Let's have a look at our timeline for the answers. Here it is. I am going to put on a couple of lines so that we can find out. You can see that the Roman Empire is concurrent with the end of British prehistory, the Iron Age, ancient Egypt, and the ancient Greeks. Because the Roman Empire weakened and got smaller over time, if you look really closely, you'll see that the start of the Anglo-Saxon period in Britain is just within the realms of the Roman Empire. Just. Last but not least, question number 3. What is the difference between a concurrent timeline and one that interacts? So concurrent, that's where we get two periods of history that exist at the same time. Interact goes further. That's where those two periods meet for different reasons. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. Please do give it a like and leave a comment, and it'd be even better if you could subscribe to the channel. Thanks very much, and I will see you again soon to talk about more history. Bye!